we are going to now talk about episode 2 of Secret Invasion. As I mentioned last week, Skrulls are doing a terrorist plot to try and topple world governments, get them all fighting with each other so that the Skrulls can take over Earth. This episode kind of turns that whole, dynamic on its head. And this episode is really all about introducing us to the villain Gravik and learning more about his backstory. As we find out in this episode, he was actually recruited by Nick Fury back in the 90s to work as a spy for S.H.I.E.L.D. A bunch of Skrulls were, and they agreed to work for him as spies, with the agreement being that Nick Fury and Carol Danvers would help them find their new home. Now, I should point out that after watching the first episode, I went back and I watched Captain Marvel again, and I noticed at the end of Captain Marvel, he takes the Skrulls in a ship and leaves Earth. And I was like, wait, so they leave Earth, but now they're all back on Earth and she hasn't helped them find a new planet? Did they just, forget about that scene? But no, this episode actually starts with a recap of Captain Marvel, the movie. And I'm not 100% sure whether it was planned for the recap to be delayed until the second episode, because my mom watched the first episode and she's like, I don't know who any of these people are. I don't know what's going on, because she had forgotten Captain Marvel. She saw it once and, she's in her late 60s, so she just forgot about it. So she went back and watched Captain Marvel again. She's like, okay, now I know who these people are. And I suspect that they actually put the recap of Captain Marvel in because that was a feedback they were hearing from a lot of people was like, I don't remember these guys. But anyway, Gravik, he was promised by Nick Fury that he'd help them find a new home if he worked for him as a spy. And well, it's 30 years later, and no, he didn't. Nick Fury did not hold up his end of the bargain. The Skrulls still do not have a homeworld, and in fact, they were kind of scattered across the universe in little, pockets of diaspora. And Talos was the general of the Skrulls at that point, and he sent a message to all the Skrulls saying, look, we're finding violence everywhere we go, so everyone just come to Earth. And he reveals to Nick Fury that there are 1 million Skrulls on Earth. Now, when we saw the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, there was a handful of them on a spaceship. But it looks like since then, kind of Talos decided, you know what? Nick Fury wasn't holding up his end of the deal, and Earth is pretty nice, so everyone just come here. Well, Fury does not like that one bit once he finds out. There's a line where he's just like, the host sets the terms for the visit. You don't just get to invite everyone to my planet without discussing it with me. And he kind of makes that argument that conservatives use when they don't want to pay for something. They're oh, we can't support Ukraine while we have homeless people in the US, when they don't actually care about helping the homeless people in the US either. But Fury says there's no room for other species when humans can't even tolerate each other, which I don't know, dude. That sounds like a you problem, and that sounds like an excuse. Not only are there 1 million Skrulls on Earth, they basically are already in control of the planet. The UK Prime Minister is a Skrull. The Secretary General of the UN is a Skrull. Lots of people are Skrulls. After Gravik does a terrorist attack in Moscow, which leaves 2,000 people dead, Gravik just goes to all of the Skrulls who are world leaders and says, hey, I'm taking over. I am the new general of our species. And they all agree. Well, one person disagrees, and he's just like, look, took a lot of guts for you to stand up to me, so you can go in peace. So, it's showing that he's got a little bit of a code of honor to him, but, he still is a terrorist who killed 2,000 people while he's, trying to claim Earth as his own. He's definitely someone to look for. It looks like they're definitely building up the Super Skrull storyline, though, because Gaia, Talos' daughter, who works with Gravik, she was investigating some of the goings on at the compound, and it looks like they are developing a new weapon, but it looks like they're pulling genetics from some different species that they're trying to splice together. She was looking on a screen and they had Groot's DNA and a couple other different species. I think they were pulling some from like the severed hand of Cull Obsidian from Infinity War. So they're doing something. They're probably going to be building a big old Super Scroll. Rhodey's in this one. We see actually quite a bit more of him in this one. After the terrorist attack in Moscow, Rhodey is sent to talk to the European Union, who are all like, look, the person who did the terrorist attack was an American as part of a terrorist group called Americans Against Russia. And you better get them in line, otherwise we're going to side with Russia against you. And Rhodey's just like, bro, this is a terrorist, it's not us. And like, I'm just here to talk to you as a courtesy, because like the president's got better things to do than come over and be, you know, scolded by a bunch of people who have nothing better to do. But he's also here to talk to Fury because Fury dropped the ball and let that terrorist attack happen. And so he's there to fire Fury. And there's like a whole scene where Fury tries to play on the fact that they're both black to be like, look, help a brother out. Like, he literally says the line, help a brother out. But I actually wrote down some lines here. This exchange was so good, I just got to read it. So Fury says, men who look like us don't get promoted because of who our daddies know. Every ounce of power we wrestle from the vice grip of the mediocre Alexander Pierces who run this world was earned in blood. So let's make the power mean something. Help a brother out. And Rhodey responds, you want me to make the power mean something by helping a brother out, but you should know better than most, the reason we wrestle this power from mediocre men who don't look like us was not simply to turn around and hand it to mediocre men who do. And that was so much shade that I had to write down the whole speech. So now Nick Fury is basically on his own. He's been fired. He's got no government support, but you know, he's still going to be investigating it. But I also really kind of liked Rhodey's response there. And I think it kind of speaks to, it's like the liberal mindset of, oh, we got to have the right person in power. Well, not always. Sometimes it's not about having the right person in power. It's about questioning, why should that power exist? Right? And like, the show doesn't get too much into that. It's just, this is an aside that I was thinking about. But, oh man, I like rewatched that scene like 3 times in a row when I was originally watching it, because I was like, oh, Rhodey is calling him out. So Fury's on his own now. We don't know what he's going to be doing while he's on his own, but that should be fun. Let's talk about Olivia Colman's character, who I can't believe I'm doing this. I have to actually look up her character's name. Sonia Fallsworth. So like I said last week, she is kind of presented as like an amoral MI6 agent who uses scorched earth tactics. And in this one, we get to see just how kind of batshit scary she is, because she is able to apprehend one of the terrorists who carried out the attack on Moscow, who she quickly discovers by chopping off one of his fingers that he is in fact a Skrull. And there's like a whole torture interrogation scene where she's just like being so cheeky and mocking and smug while she's like torturing this guy to death for information. Yeah, I don't want to be on her bad side. I don't think she's a Skrull at this point. I was thinking last week, I don't know, maybe she's a Skrull, but I think she's just a human. I think she's just a very, very scary human. I look forward to seeing more of her. I hope she dies by the end, because I think she's kind of a bad person, but I definitely want to see what kind of havoc she can wreak in the show until then. That's kind of the main gist of this episode. The Skrulls are far more places than we realized. Oh yeah, I should also mention that the reason Fury's on his own, even though he was with Talos earlier, is that after he found out that Talos had invited 1 million Skrulls to Earth, they kind of, you know, got pissed at each other and went their separate ways. Because like I mentioned in the first episode, I thought this was far more of like a Talos vehicle than a Fury vehicle. But now, once they've done that, I think we're probably going to get a lot more Fury. But anyway, show's getting interesting. I still think it's a little too early to say if they're going to stick the landing on this one. Well, I think last week I gave it a 6 out of 10. I would say I'll bump this one up to a 7 out of 10. It's a very entertaining watch. I think Gravik is shown to be particularly menacing, but I don't know if they're going to have follow through with him. I think the actor's really good for him. I just hope that he's more than just a scary guy who does scary things. I hope they give him a little bit more meat. I still would say if you're not sure if you want to watch it, wait a couple weeks before you get into it. You know, I will be bringing up some mild spoilers every week on here, but hopefully nothing show breaking. This episode does end on a cliffhanger that I'm not going to discuss. You know, because obviously I don't want to spoil the ending, but it'll definitely be something to talk about next week. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream these reviews every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and a special shout out to my patron pfftlecakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.